CoPilot is everywhere, but nobody wants it. The slogan was, "A PC you can talk to," but users are furious, and now no one is paying for it. Out of 450 million commercial 365 seats, those using paid CoPilot seats is just 3.3%. And it's not just users annoyed at Microsoft. Microsoft's market cap dropped $500 billion in a single week after they announced more AI spend. Yet, there's something even worse about CoPilot. This might be Microsoft's biggest disaster in history. Over 96% of its own Microsoft 365 customer base still isn't paying for CoPilot. And what makes this even stranger is Microsoft's wild expectations for CoPilot. This thing is everywhere. If you're on Windows 11, click the taskbar search button and you'll see it in the top right. So, what is CoPilot actually for?
Hey CoPilot.
Hey, CoPilot.
Hey, CoPilot.
Show me how to sync my holiday lights to my music.
Let's walk through it together.
Hey, CoPilot, why are we so far behind?
Toy assembly has declined due to hot cocoa consumption.
You talking to your computer?
That was the pitch. PC you can talk to. Basically, Microsoft's Do Stuff For Me assistant. It would find a window setting for you instead of digging through menus. Menus which Microsoft had made notoriously annoying, but I digress. It could analyze data in Excel, or create charts and formulas, create a presentation deck in PowerPoint based on a Word doc, summarize and reply in Outlook based on info in your 365 apps. But it wasn't just for 365 apps either. It was integrated into Windows itself. You could ask it to find your local files, summarize and compare them, even the ones in OneDrive. It wasn't just your day-to-day tasks either. A huge part of AI use is programming. You could argue that building code is the biggest market for AI products, and Microsoft wanted in. They already own GitHub, which they bought in 2018, the largest code hosting and collaborating platform on Earth. So combine that with CoPilot too. Microsoft rolled out GitHub Copilot. It's pretty much like other AI agents that work in your editor, except instead of GPT or Claude, it was CoPilot. Overall, some of the things Microsoft said about CoPilot sounded pretty great. Asking an agent to pull up files, like a robust search function, or being able to cross between all kinds of files and Windows apps at once. Sounds pretty convenient, if it actually works. Though Satya Nadella, Microsoft CEO, believed it would be much bigger. He said it would be essentially a new category of computing. This is as significant as the PC was to the 80s, the web in the 90s, mobile in the 2000s, and cloud in the 2010s. Just like you boot up an operating system to access applications or use a browser to navigate websites, you will involve a CoPilot to do all these activities and more. To be honest, Microsoft seemed to be going a bit crazy over CoPilot. They pushed this thing everywhere. Microsoft rebranded the 365 app to Microsoft 365 CoPilot. The logo also changed to feature CoPilot's logo. They also incorporated it into Edge, into your taskbar, into all their apps, even a new CoPilot Plus PC. They had also spent a lot of money. CoPilot is based on ChatGPT models with Microsoft tweaks, which they had spent $11.6 billion on. Even Bill Gates warned against this, telling Nadella, "You're going to burn this $1 billion," back in 2019. But Microsoft was just getting started. In 2023 and 2024, Microsoft had a projected $80 billion in AI infrastructure spending. By 2025, they were spending over $30 billion a quarter, most going toward GPU and CPUs for AI, and Nadella was confident. Their goal was enterprise customers, giant businesses who would buy hundreds, if not thousands of seats. CoPilot was $30 per seat per month. And Microsoft has hundreds of millions of 365 seats. Just imagine the revenue if even half of them adopt CoPilot. But Microsoft had to prove it was worth it for them, so they hired Forrester Consulting to conduct a study on CoPilot. They estimated businesses would see a return on investment between 137% and 367%. CoPilot would also, apparently, improve efficiency by 6 to 13%, worth between $5 million and $9.6 million over 3 years. For small to medium businesses, Forrester projected a 6% increase in revenue, 20% lower operating costs, and 25% faster new hire onboarding. Sounds great, if it actually works. So, did it? At first, it looked like good news. 94% of organizations using Microsoft 365 CoPilot reported some benefits, and 70% of Fortune 500 companies have adopted 365 CoPilot. Also great, but there was a huge problem for Microsoft specifically. Only 6% completed an enterprise-wide rollout, and 72% were still in pilot or limited deployments. Not good, but what about other metrics? Was there actually return on investments as high as 360%? Also underwhelming. So why roll out CoPilot company-wide? It just wasn't worth it. Those Fortune 500 companies were mostly just using pilots, aka the limited trial rollout to a small group. But Microsoft wanted everyone using CoPilot. After Microsoft pushed it so aggressively, many people did give it a go, but results were mixed. Soon, complaints, comments, and angry reviews began to pour into support sites. Give me a list of all the files I have opened today, showing the file name, time it was accessed, and the file size. Not only will it not place the content into my open Word doc, but it can't even get the contents of the file correct. It starts listing a useless list of files literally opened years ago. It will give me instructions on how to do things myself, and is thus just a conventional help system on steroids. CoPilot has been a negative productivity boost. I find it very frustrating that CoPilot won't do anything to my documents. It just gives me complicated instructions on how to do it myself. For example, I asked it to change the font of all the dates in my Word document from ordinary to bold. The reply told me how to do it. It wasn't straightforward. And these aren't just horror stories. Every time I've used CoPilot personally, it doesn't really do anything. It sort of just sits there, and whenever I ask it to do something, it gives an excuse as to why it can't, and then it tells me to do it. And if you don't like CoPilot, too bad. You couldn't get rid of it from OneNote, Excel, or PowerPoint, and in some cases, Windows itself. Literally no one asked for all this AI. In fact, everyone wants to know how to remove it. This is while Microsoft simultaneously makes Windows 11 more bloated, but it gets even worse. To date, Microsoft has committed over $13 billion into ChatGPT, which is essentially the engine for CoPilot. Though for a long time, CoPilot didn't use OpenAI's latest LLM, and instead it used models like GPT-4 with a bunch of Microsoft changes. Despite all this investment, CoPilot is just a worse ChatGPT, which has caused something ironic to happen. Its users are just using ChatGPT instead. Grok just works. ChatGPT just works. Claude just works. CoPilot is a dumpster fire. When you ask ChatGPT to perform a specific function, it does so without hesitation. It's able to understand the request and deliver exactly what's needed. But CoPilot? It struggles with the basics, and that's unacceptable, especially from a company like Microsoft. According to user data, ChatGPT rates 97% for ease of use and 93% for meeting requirement, while CoPilot scores 86%. To be honest, 86 is not bad, but you see the relative problem. CoPilot fails at the very thing it's intended for, and Microsoft's own employees are paying out of pocket for ChatGPT instead of CoPilot. The CoPilot adoption wasn't working, so Microsoft decided to change tactics. Windows might feel like it's getting worse every year, but our videos are still consistent after 8 years. So if you haven't subscribed, it would mean a lot. Thank you. Microsoft's metrics were falling way below the benchmark. Only 1 in 5 salespeople hit their AI sales targets, which caused Microsoft to lower the goals. For Business 365 customers, out of the 450 million seats, only 3% had paid for CoPilot seats. So Microsoft pivoted to another group, personal and family plans. Satya Nadella was going to get everyone to become CoPilot users, whether they liked it or not. In late 2024, Microsoft made changes to the Personal and Family 365 plans. These would now include Microsoft CoPilot. Except there was a twist. Microsoft was quietly moving people onto a higher price tier to include CoPilot. The Personal plan went up by 45% and the Family plan by 29%. But what if you wanted the original plan? Well, Microsoft wouldn't tell you. The Classic version of 365 only appeared if you went to the cancel subscription path. And in Australia and New Zealand, you can't even swap back to Classic anymore. This was so bad that the Australian government sued Microsoft for pushing customers into higher priced plans for a penalty above 50 million Australian dollars. Instead of trying to get everyone to buy into CoPilot, they'd just force it into the product everyone was using. Speaking of which, I also think this is why Microsoft discontinued Windows 10 notably early. The built-in CoPilot outside of the browser is only available in Windows 11, and I think they wanted more of their users using their new big product. Ironically, for a lot of people, this was a pretty big reason to stick with Windows 10. People were sick of CoPilot. It was now dragging the rest of Windows down with it. Users gave Microsoft a new name, MicroSlop. Someone even made a browser add-on that does this. Pretty funny. People are also now calling CoPilot Clippy 2.0, among other things. But there's still one unanswered question. What about CoPilot for GitHub and it being the future of coding? This might be the ironic twist in this whole story, because not even Microsoft trusts CoPilot to do this. Microsoft recently asked thousands of its software engineers to work with both Claude Code and GitHub Copilot and report back on which one works better. These are staff responsible for Windows, Office, Teams, Edge, and Surface, who are all instructed to use Claude. Even non-technical employees like designers and project managers were told to use it. Microsoft also made a deal with Anthropic so Microsoft Foundry customers, their Azure AI agent platform, can access all the Claude agents, Claude Sonnet 4.5, Opus 4.1, and Haiku 4.5. But if Microsoft says CoPilot is the future of coding, why use other platforms? Well, we know why. The reality is many developers use lots of agents, not just one. Cursor for changing code across complex multi-file projects, or Claude Code for making simple edits many times. CoPilot does have some unique use cases. Some developers will use GitHub Copilot inside JetBrains, a coding app, because when adding code in line as you type it, as well as some other use cases, it's actually fantastic. But Microsoft didn't want CoPilot to be one of the niche but useful coding agents. The big moneymaker for Microsoft is Enterprise, those hundreds of millions of paid seats, and that's exactly where CoPilot is falling short. Satya Nadella wanted it to be essentially the next Windows, more or less. But deep down, I think Microsoft knows CoPilot is a stumbling block. It's just a worse ChatGPT, which itself is in trouble with Google's recent success with Gemini. And now, it seems like Microsoft is finally starting to pull back on CoPilot. In fact, it looks like CEOs in general are pulling back from AI. Check out this video to learn more, but until then, I'm Hari, and I'll see you guys on the next one.